You know, the American Dream Coalition is really supposed, some people think that we ought to go out and lobby, we ought to litigate, things like that, but really we exist as a service organization to provide you with tools so that you can do the work you need to do and be more effective at that work. And this conference is one of those tools. You've had a chance to hear from and meet close to 40 different speakers who are experts on these issues, and that gives you a chance to learn more about it. But it's not enough that you're hearing it. More people have to hear these messages. One thing we have is DVDs, and I'm pleased we're finally, we have DVDs from some of yesterday's sessions already. So if you signed up or you'd like to get some of these DVDs, we have them out there. We also have...
And today's.
And today's already, huh?
The first one today is now available.
All right.
This one will probably be available 15 minutes after it's done.
So you can take... Yes, thank you, Jim. Jim Carlock is working tirelessly. I don't think he's gotten much chance to sleep, but I don't think he sleeps anyway. Been doing a good job of putting together the video systems. We also have, and Jim has worked this out, a set of DVDs for broadcast on cable access. They are 26 shows that are timed to be 58 minutes long, which is about what a cable access show is, because they need a couple minutes for station identification and all that. And they're from the previous conferences. So if you're interested in those, we have all 26 shows for a modest amount of money, and we'll have some of those out there. Now, what we would like you to do, more than just take home information and DVDs, is plan an event in your community. And by an event, I mean you've met 40 excellent speakers. Pick out the speakers who you think are most important, have the most things relevant to say in your community, the speaker or speakers, and bring them to your community. Have your own speaker or a series of speakers or a conference, your own American Dream Conference or California Dream Conference or Texas Dream Conference or wherever you're from conference. If it's a conference, it could be like yesterday's conference. Our annual conferences are 3 days. We take a tour of the local community, we have substantive speakers, and we have grassroots organizing speakers. If you have a local conference, you don't need the tour, you don't need the grassroots organizing, you need the substance. So you could bring a few outside speakers, get some experts from your community, maybe have one person who's opposition who you can have as a sacrificial lamb to get people motivated, get them to hear the issues and argue about the issues with. So plan an event, and we can help you do that. Our website has a speakers bureau. It has 10 speakers on it now, but we're going to add more speakers. Many of the speakers at this conference who aren't in our speakers bureau have said that they'll agree to be added to the speakers bureau, so that we'll probably end up with 20 or so in a few months. And each speaker has a vitae and a sample of their presentation and a little more information, like whether they need to be want to have an honorarium or things like that. Now, the advantages of doing an event are multiple. First of all, you get a chance to educate the public on these issues. And we all know that a prophet is never honored in their own country. So if you bring people in from outside, they're going to have a lot more respect than just you saying it inside. Secondly, it's an opportunity to get a media hit. You have a speaker, they're saying something important, that becomes an event. You can get some media attention for that. And thirdly, it's an opportunity for coalition building, because you can get other groups to sponsor it, you can get other groups to buy into bringing in the speakers, and then eventually they'll buy into being a part of your local dream coalition. And that coalition building will be important, because then you'll have people there who can provide funding, who can provide expertise, who can provide other things for you when it's time to get involved in a more serious campaign. But of course, the real reason to bring these speakers in now is so that you won't have to. It's to inoculate, so you can prevent the other side from gaining ground in your community, like they did in Portland, my hometown, and in other cities across the country. Now, I said there's 3 ways of doing this. You can just pick one speaker and have that speaker come in, and that would be fine. But if you want to have a speaker series, like one speaker a month or one speaker every month, that can be very powerful. Or if you want to have a conference where you get maybe 6 or 8 or more speakers, some of them local, some of them from out of state, that can be very powerful too. Those also are very costly. One way of covering those costs is to accredit the speakers for continuing education credits with various entities. Urban planners, architects, land use attorneys, sometimes even home builders and realtors are required to get continuing education credits to maintain standing in their profession. Their employers need them to have that standing, and so their employers often will pay the cost of going to a conference to get the continuing education credits. So if you take the trouble, as Mark Nix has done with the South Carolina Landowners Association, take the trouble to get the continuing education credits, then you can have an audience. You'll have people come in because they have to get the credits, and in many cases they are people who need to hear your message. It's the local planners who have been inundated from the American Planning Association with smart growth. It's the realtors who have been inundated, unfortunately, by the National Association of Realtors with smart growth, and other groups who need to hear another side of the story. So it helps build your audience, and it helps provide some funding for you to pay to defray the cost of bringing in the speakers. If you're only going to bring in one speaker, it's probably not worth going to the trouble. But if you're going to do a series, to get continuing education credits, you need to give whatever body it is. You need to find out what those bodies are. It's going to be different in each state. This might be the chapter of the American Planning Association. It might be a state commissioned body, whatever. You need to find out what that body is. And then you need to give them the vitae and a sample presentation from each of the speakers you're going to bring in. That's why our Speakers Bureau is basically a vitae and a sample presentation for each of those speakers, so that you can get those credits. The advantage of doing that is very great. There's an organization in Minneapolis called the Sensible Land Use Coalition. They have a monthly speaker series. They get 300 to 500 people coming in, and they easily pay for all the costs of bringing in speakers and paying their honoraria and so on with the amount of money they earn from people who need to have continuing education credits. Co-sponsors go to different entities who might be on your side, but they don't have to be on your side to start with. Just they might potentially be on your side, and see if they will be willing to co-sponsor it. It's a good way to introduce yourself to those organizations. It's a good way to get them to buy in at the very beginning to just the idea of having some outside ideas brought into your community. Some possible organizations would be home builders. Not home builders individually, but the local Home Builders Association. There's about 350 state and local home builder associations, and each of those associations, they themselves generally have a monthly speaker series, but they're interested in other kinds of outside speakers as well. There's thousands of realtor associations. I don't know why, but there's a lot more realtor associations than there are home builder associations. And though they could be potential supporters. Now, these professional associations generally can put up some money to help you bring in the speaker. So they can put their name on it, they can advertise it to their members, and they can provide some money to help you bring in the speaker as well. Think tanks generally have a large speaker list or a large membership list, so they can help you publicize it. You can put their name on it. They probably won't have any money to bring in the speaker, but they can be very influential and help you plan the publicity. They often do these things as well, so they can help you do the work of putting it together. University institutes, you might see, if you've got a university in your community, you might see if there's a Institute of Land Use or something. They might be able to help you. Many of them are on the other side, of course, but if they're centrist or if they're fairly unbiased, they'd be willing to put their name on it, and again, it would help get you publicity. they aren't probably going to provide you with too much money. Auto dealer associations. This is one that it's a hard nut to crack. They tend to be a little bit apolitical, but this is something that influences them. And so I know Dale Evans and her group in Hawaii has been able to get the help of the Hawaiian Auto Dealer Association. And if you can go beyond that. Firefighter unions. We heard yesterday about how traffic calming and other congestion building measures harm the ability of paramedics and firefighters to provide emergency services. Firefighter agencies are politicized. They can't do it, but the firefighter union might be willing to co-sponsor with you. If there's a private ambulance service, they might be willing to co-sponsor with you. And think beyond that. Go if you have a minority community, go to the black ministers. They are very influential. See if you can get their church to co-sponsor it. Again, it's partly a matter of just helping you get publicity. Once you have your co-sponsors, then you need to know where you're going to do it. And it's important to understand there's usually a lot of competition. Hotels like this one, convention centers. There's sometimes some centers that just do conferences. They don't have hotel rooms, they just have banquet facilities. And with that competition, you can negotiate. You can go back and forth. Well, this one will provide me the meeting rooms for free and meals for such and such, and then we'll go to this one. Well, gee, the other one, they gave me a 10% discount, and go back and forth and get the cost down. We're not used to negotiating. We're used to going into the store and they say it's $99.95 and that's the price we pay. But with these kinds of things, there's a lot that's negotiable, especially if you're willing to pick a date, be flexible in your date. You want a date that people are going to come in, but you can be more flexible than some groups, and so you might be able to find a day that they don't have anything scheduled, and they'll be willing to provide it for you at a lower cost. For publicity, you really want to rely as much as possible on free publicity. You don't want to pay the newspapers for a big ad in the paper, partly because it's very costly, and partly because, I'm sorry, a lot of people don't read the ads in the papers. I'm sorry. A lot of people don't read the ads in the papers anymore. At least I don't. Maybe that's just me. But what you want to do is see if you can get the free publicity. Go to the talk show radio people and say, we've got these speakers coming into town. How would you like to interview them in the week before our conference? And that'll let people know what the issues are and let people give an advance notice. And then while you're interviewing them, you can say, oh, and you can meet this person when they come into town next week. Op-eds. It's likely that the speakers that you are bringing in have written op-eds on the issues that they're going to be talking about. It wouldn't take too much tweaking for them to turn the op-eds they've already written into an op-ed that fits your community. So submit those op-eds to your local papers. Now your daily paper might be hard to get into, but there are weekly papers that are often begging for material, and the weekly paper would put the op-ed, and they might even be less restrictive on word length, and then they'll say at the end of the op-ed, so-and-so is an expert on such and such, and they're speaking in town next week. So that's another way to get free publicity. And of course, each of your co-sponsors has their own publicity machine, and get on them and make sure that they can do this. And with that, I'd like to pass the baton to Eileen, who has done this in her community, and she can tell you what it's like on her end. Thank you.
Well, I've had Randal to Madison, Wisconsin twice, and it was a real experience both times. I just wanted to say that I can see in the audience we've lost a lot of our academic geeks. They're gone. These are the real people that are left, although I see just a few of them still around. But you are the champions, and that's what people told me I was, and it sort of fit. I'm a champion for this point of view, and that's what all of you are too. And as champions, we just have to do what we can to get the word out about another point of view, because all of us, and I'm just impressed with how similar it is all across the United States, except maybe in Orange County, where these ideas that smart growth may not be so smart, that there's a planning penalty, that congestion is not a good thing. We have something to say that's very different than what's being talked about all of the time. So what do we need, and what do we need to do to pull off a good event? And I guess I wanted to back up and say, we can't get all of the people from our communities to come to this conference, as much as I'd like to see that happen. But what Randal is offering is an opportunity to bring the American Dream Coalition speakers to your community. And there will be people that become interested enough in what they have to say to start coming to the conference. I joined the American Dream Coalition, I guess, in the first year. I didn't even realize what I was doing. This last time when I came into town, I ended up going to a meeting and then being appointed to the marketing committee, along with Ron Utt, and I don't know, I think there's somebody else that's coming that will also be attending. And any of you are welcome to join us if you have some ideas about how to get these ideas out. But I'm going to just back up a little bit to how I did it, because it was really me. First of all, I committed 2 days to Randal's trip. We had a very low budget. I don't think we had any budget whatsoever, actually. It was basically my time. And in Madison, the way our county is set up, we have something like 66 municipalities. So I got the email list for all of the cities, villages, and towns. I've invited all the elected officials. I put an announcement out on the comprehensive list plan. We have a comprehensive law, and Dane County is doing our plan right now. And this goes out to everybody on both sides of the issue. I'm an elected official. I serve on the county board. I'm a member of the MPO, and so I have some friends over at DOT. So I emailed all of my buddies over at DOT and told them to come. I called up all the lobbyists that I knew, and I actually know quite a few of them. I told them to come. There were some lawyers that I know that do a lot of land use stuff because they come to every county board meeting for the zoning petitions. I told them to come. I called my city cable 12, asked Randal to be taped. They wouldn't do it the first time, but they did it the second time. There's one radio station in Dane County that has a more conservative slant to it, and Vicki McKenna, who Randal has spoken with many times, I believe, is kind of a real character on the local scene. And so I called her and told her that Randal was coming. So she allowed us to get some airtime about this. And also, let's see, who else was there? Basically everybody that was in my address book. I just said, we're having this wonderful event, you just have to come. We did it over the lunch hour. We did it in a town hall. All of that was free. We made everybody pay for their own lunch, which was subs for $5, so it was not a big deal. The Dane County Towns Association helped sponsor it. I think they provided the chips and the soda. What we did was take this full day. I had Randal. It was a very intense day. I was surprised that he held up so well. I was falling apart by the end of it. But we had Randal speak on the radio in the morning, and then from there we went. Where do we go next? Well, we went to this luncheon meeting that we had out in the town of Middleton. And then after that, you were on Mitch Hank's show in the morning, the luncheon, and then we were on Vicki McKenna's show in the afternoon. And then I had a reception for Randal out in Wanakee, which is the village that I live nearby. And at each one of these events, it was, I mean, at the luncheon, I was just amazed at how many people came. I think we had something like 75 or 80 people there. I had notified the television stations, and probably what made it the most fun was that some of our smart growthers, and there's one guy from the Sierra Club, and especially Brett Halsey, when Randal was being taped on the television, he was coming in and he was butting in front of him. I didn't see the whole thing, but he was just really being obnoxious. People are afraid of this message, and or at least the other side is afraid of it. And so it's particularly important to have very credible people speaking, people that have the facts, and Randal just did a great job. Let's see. It's a lot of work for a short period of time, but it was so well worth it. For months afterwards, I had people coming up to me, thanking me for having Randal in town. And there's more people out there than you think that really do want to hear about, congestion coalitions, and, they want to hear about the other side of the story. And the only way they'll really get the facts is for you, as champions for this cause, to get them to listen to some of the experts that we have available to us through the American Dream Coalition. Randal talked about having the Speakers Bureau and bringing people in. I don't know about you, I am like really busy. I have a lot of stuff going on in my life. I can do this, I can commit to having, and I did earlier when I first got here, to have 2 speakers. And I think I'm gonna have Sam Staley come to Madison, and I'm not sure who the other one is. I have to think about it a little bit more, but I can do that twice in a year, and my guess is if I do that, there will be more people that come to next year's American Dream Coalition meeting. And we need more people like you, not just the economists and the scientists. We need like real people, because that's the only way we're gonna I'm sorry. Because I'll tell you, what you guys give us is our voice. You give us the words, you give us the concepts, and you give us a way to express it to others, and that's the grassroots part of all of this. So I guess I'll just end it there, but if you can commit to a few days, as Randal's done a great job of putting together all these speakers, and who would resonate in your community. If you can get them there, do it. It'll be a very satisfying experience for you and the community. Thank you.